Okay, this is part one of the digestive system. Um, so the digestive system is where we break down the food we eat and absorb whatever material we need out of it and then get rid of the waste. The main portion of the digestive system is called the alimentary canal. That's right here, the alimentary canal. And the alimentary canal is actually part of the outside of our body because the tube runs from the mouth, the alimentary canal runs from the mouth to the anus. So it's open to the outside of the body. Depending on what we eat will depend on whatever the chemical makeup of the alimentary canal is at that point. So the pH, electrolytes, volume of water, all that will depend on whatever we eat. When the food enters the alimentary canal, it's broken down through mechanical digestion, so just things like chewing or mixing within the canal, and chemical digestion, so changes in pH or enzymes. And it's broken down into those into the monomers that we talked about in AMP1, the monomers of the macromolecule or from the macromolecules. So monosaccharides, the simple sugars, the amino acids, the nucleotides, fatty acids, and glycerol. And then all that material is absorbed. Okay, so the two main parts of the digestive system are the alimentary canal and the accessory organs. And like we already talked about, the alimentary canal starts in the mouth, goes all the way to the anus, passageway for the food to pass through. And the alimentary canal, like we said, starts in the mouth, and it goes through the thoracic cavity and through the abdominal pelvic cavity. The accessory organs generally are things that secrete material into the alimentary canal, like the salivary glands, the liver, gallbladder, pancreas. These all secrete material into it. Food doesn't pass through the accessory organs. It just passes through the alimentary canal. Okay, so the alimentary canal has, or the wall itself is made up of 4 layers. And the 4 layers, starting with the innermost layer, are the mucosa. And that's just a mucous membrane. That's the innermost layer. So this is this one right here. Then below that you have, or outside of that, I should say, you have the submucosa. And the submucosa has blood vessels and nerves through it, lymphatic vessels. Remember, the lymphatic vessels are going to be there to carry those lipids back to the bloodstream via the lymphatic system. And it helps to nourish the cells in the alimentary canal, but it also transports the absorbed food molecules. The muscularis is that 3rd layer from the inside out, and that's a muscular tissue, a smooth muscle, and it's going to help move the tube and move the food materials through the tube. The serosa is the outermost layer, and that serosa, if you remember from AMP1, secretes that serous fluid. That serous fluid, it's an R, and helps eliminate friction between the organs. Movements in the alimentary canal. Well, we've got mixing movements and propelling movements. The mixing movements happen when you get small sections of the alimentary canal that contract rhythmically. So, for example, this part is contracting, and then this part will contract. And that's going to mix all these together. So it's kind of like kneading almost when you're kneading dough. You've got the propelling movements. Propelling movements are there to move material along in one direction. So this part will squeeze, and then next, this part will squeeze to push that material through. That peristalsis we talked about before is the type of propelling movement. Peristalsis. Okay, so it's going to move the material down the track. Innervation of the tube, these two plexuses. So innervation happens between or with the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. And remember, both of those are part of the autonomic nervous system. And you've got the submucosal plexus, which controls secretions. So this is going to control secretions. And then the myenteric plexus controls the motility, so moving things along. Okay. The parasympathetic nervous impulses increase digestive activities, so the secretion and the motility, and the sympathetic decrease those actions. All right. So let's start talking about the canal itself. The mouth is that first part of the alimentary canal. The mouth is where ingestion happens, where we ingest food. Mastication, so we ingest food. Mastication is chewing. So it's mechanical breakdown of those solid particles, and also mixes them with the saliva. The mouth has other functions, so it has speech and sensory, so for taste. And it includes the oral vestibule, which is this area here between the lips and the gum, and the oral cavity. Okay. Tongue. Tongue is just a thick muscle, and it takes up most of the floor of the mouth. When the mouth is closed, the tongue almost completely fills the mouth. This linguinal frenulum, that's that little part in your floor of your mouth that connects. It's like a little connection between the tongue and the floor of the mouth. The papillae are these projections that are there to move food around, and they also contain the taste buds. The linguinal tonsils are part of the lymphatic system. They're nodules, and they're way back here on the root of the tongue. All right, the palate. Palate makes up the roof of the oral cavity. You've got the hard palate, which is bony, and you've got the soft palate, which is muscular. The uvula extends from the soft palate, and the uvula is that dangly thing in the back of the throat. And it helps to function, well, I should say it may function in causing saliva or salivary release during speaking. Any mechanical forces cause it to be stimulated. Um, so air passing through there, and it makes it really hard to talk when you have a dry mouth. So that's why that may be one function of it. The palatine tonsils. And the palatine tonsils are lymphatic nodules around both sides of the tongue. And then the pharyngeal tonsils, which are adenoids, those pharyngeal tonsils are right up here, also lymphatic tissue in the superior posterior wall of the pharynx. Teeth. Teeth are the hardest structures in the body. We've got 20 primary teeth and 32 secondary teeth. And this just shows those primary teeth already in there, and then the secondary teeth will push up as the baby matures. Okay. As far as the teeth goes, so these are primary and secondary. Notice the secondary, we get these third molars, which quite often get removed. The incisors and the canines are more for tearing things, whereas the molars are more there for crushing things. Okay, and this is a tooth. Two parts or two main areas of the tooth. You got the crown, which sticks out from the gum line above, and the root, which is everything from the gum line and below. The enamel is extremely hard part of the crown. This area of the root that has the root canal holds the nerves and the blood supply for the tooth. The tooth sits in a socket called the alveolar process, and it's held in there with a periodontal ligament. Salivary glands release saliva. Saliva is just there to moisten the food and bind it together. It also helps digest or dissolve the food so it can be tasted. Remember, those taste buds are chemoreceptors, but they have to be in an aqueous, or they have to be in liquid form. Saliva contains a lot of enzymes. The enzymes start the digestion of carbohydrates. And it also, saliva has bicarbonate ions. So it has the bicarbonate ions. Okay, the bicarbonate ions help to keep the pH stable for those enzymes. And we talked about the glands, but repeat them there. You got the parotid glands, submandibular, and sublingual. Okay, and then those enzymes that break down the carbohydrates are called salivary amylase. Salivary amylase. Okay. Okay, so the salivary secretions come from serous cells and mucus cells. The serous cells produce the watery fluid, and that's where the salivary amylase comes from. So it's a watery fluid, and this is where the salivary amylase comes from. Okay, and salivary amylase takes starch and turns it into glycogen and disaccharides. The mucus cells just secrete mucus, which helps to bind the food particles together and lubricates it for swallowing. All right. So there's the major salivary glands. Got the parotid glands, which are the largest. Actually, the largest. And then we've got they're just anterior and inferior to the ear. These are mainly serous glands, so they have a lot of salivary amylase in them. Submandibular glands are serous and mucus glands in the floor of the mouth, and sublingual glands are under the tongue. These are mainly mucus glands.